Coming to you live from the Business Radio X studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Welcome back, everybody, to Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and we're the show that brings you insightful conversations with industry leaders and franchise experts. And today is no different. We have the privilege of interviewing Bob Johnston. He is the CEO of Melting Pot Restaurant and Franchise. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Hey, thanks, Rob. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you. It's great to have you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's talk about the Melting Pot. Before we do that, let's do a little rewind. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in your history with the brand and everything like that.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And the Melting Pot was born in 1975, so we've been around a while. And my two older brothers, Mike and Mark, were amongst the very first franchisees of the Melting Pot in Tallahassee, Florida, and then in Tampa, Florida. And I'm a few years younger than them. I was in high school at that time. And my first job was working for my two brothers, washing dishes at the Melting Pot in Tallahassee. And I never thought that the restaurant business would be my life's work, rather, but that's what it turned out to be. And it has been and continues to be really an amazing journey.
Yeah. Well, it's I was just thinking as you were talking about that, right? I think restaurants are an opportunity for a lot of younger people as a starting point, to get a job and learn about life. And so many of us wind up in restaurants, but I think Melting Pot, we have one in our town here in Colorado Springs, but I do think that there's more to it than that, right? It's community. It's about knowing the community around you and really creating an experience. So I don't know, as a young person, you probably don't appreciate that as much, but you wound up staying with it. But I guess other people around you, that's what they live for. And that's what you picked up on.
Yeah, well, it's true. The restaurant industry is kind of a stepping stone business for most young people as they figure out what they want to do with their lives. And that's a challenge of the business, right? Is how do you get young people who maybe have no intention, like myself at that time, of making a career out of this? How do you get them to fall in love with it, or at least to give the kind of effort that we need them to win as a business? And for us is, part of our principles, just the way we're wired, is we serve our team members first. We try to teach them skills that they can take with them no matter what walk in life they choose. And, once in a while, people like me decide to make this a career and they stay with us. And many of those young people are very successful franchisees today. And they have become, like your franchisee in Colorado Springs, a big part of the community, giving back to the community that supported them so much.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, and I was going to ask you a little bit about the longevity. I mean, let's face it, the restaurant business, the franchise industry is competitive, right? And you've seen many economies, right? Many ups and downs, especially as of late, some of the strange things that you probably wouldn't have thought of even, but you've been through a lot. Tell us about that longevity. You shared something right there with how the culture you have. And I think when you give a team an opportunity to look forward, right, to something in their future and feel like they're making an impact, that's one ingredient. But tell us about the longevity. Tell us how do you do that?
Yeah, well, we feel very fortunate, and it is something that we don't take for granted. We work at it only every day. But I guess if you're asking me what's the secrets to our success, it's not one thing, it's a number of things. But the ones that are at the top of the list are, the concept itself is extremely unique. And the restaurant business, as many industries, is crowded, full of competitors who do things very similar to you. But the Melting Pot stands apart from virtually every other restaurant that you could think of. When we ask guests, if you didn't eat at the Melting Pot tonight, where might you go? The kinds of places that they mention are like a Japanese steakhouse, or a concept where it's more than food and service. There's an experience that you're a part of, and it's almost entertainment. So the uniqueness of the concept is one. Secondly, the level of commitment to supporting our franchisees and their success. We have a lot of very talented people at our restaurant support center in Tampa, Florida, and they're fully committed to helping franchisees win. So I think that's another aspect of our success, and that is a perfect segue into the other reason why we have experienced success over a long period of time, and that's our franchisees. We pick the right strategic partners. That's how we refer to our relationship with franchisees, to go into business with. And, they take their responsibility of kind of being a caretaker of the brand in their community really, really seriously. We couldn't win without them. And then you touched on it, the culture of the organization, our principles and beliefs, which lie underneath every decision and every action. I think is another reason for our continued success.
Yeah. That's the hard part, is it's not one thing, it's a lot of things. And you learned a lot of those things over time. And that's one of the amazing things about being part of a franchise opportunity. And like you said, it's strategic, it's a strategic partnership, right? They have to buy in, but it's like you've kind of greased the skids and smoothed the road ahead to get started. But tell me a little bit about what's unique here. So I know the menu is unique, and I know that's one of the things that I think is cool about it. I have been a few times myself, and so. But tell me a little bit about, how do you balance the whole fondue approach? And all the different things you do there with, that's sure your core idea, with just the idea of, again, you've been in business a long time. You may be pressured to evolve or cater to the broader audience. How do you do that and still stay true to the niche of what you're doing with the menu?
Yeah, well, it's critical that every brand, whether it's a restaurant or some other product or service, that it stay relevant with the consumer. And just prior to the adventure of COVID, we launched an initiative that we call Melting Pot Evolution, which is all about, staying relevant for the consumer, keeping it fresh and new and evolving and being innovative. So all of the restaurants over the course of the last year and will continue throughout the remainder of this year are getting updated in very noticeable ways for the guests, to make the experience more enjoyable for them, but also to drive better financial results for franchisees. So I guess the best way I would put it is, it's not your father's melting pot anymore. It's more contemporary, with more of a focus on the beverage program, the bar specifically, a little bit more open, more energy. If I can say this, it's a little bit of a sexier experience than maybe what customers are accustomed to. And the great news is that we're doing a lot of research about how the guest is responding to this, and they're telling us that they like what we are doing. And they're also telling us that with record increases in traffic and sales. So it was the right moves at the right time. And that has set us up for what we're experiencing right now, which is renewed interest in growth, more melting pots in more markets, because there are towns where this brand needs to be represented by a franchisee strategic partner. And we're busy speaking to interested candidates now to learn together whether this is the right opportunity for them and for us.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. It's I wouldn't call it a marriage, but it's an important partnership, right? It's
Yes,
similar to that, right?
it is.
So that's great. But so tell me a little bit about the menu, just kind of zeroing in. I'm sure for folks that are passionate about this business model, we're considering it. A lot of people that listen to the show are those that could be considering even the thought of starting a business, and maybe restaurants is something they're thinking of. And then your restaurant has a style, right? Like you said, a sexy style now is where you're moving in a direction of energy and, an experience, right? People enjoy it. They walk away feeling like they not just went and got something to eat, but they actually enjoyed a night out and did something enjoyable and had an experience. So tell me a little bit about the culinary process, though. Is there a process you go through for vetting a new approach or something new on the menu? I mean, how do you approach that? I'm sure you take it very seriously. And how do you approach the menu and developing new items?
Well, I'll start with the fact that we listen to our franchisees, because they are as close as you can get to operations on a day-to-day basis. And they partner with our corporate chef Jason Miller, and share ideas about what guests are maybe inquiring about or might be interested in. And so, innovation isn't something we do once in a while. It's something that takes place every day. So there's about a dozen melting pot restaurants across the country that are continually testing new products, whether it's food or beverage, and sometimes not just products, but also the way in which we're going about delivering the experience. And we gather the feedback about how the guests have responded to that, and use that to inform our decision whether to make a change or an enhancement through the entire system. But just like the restaurant should not be allowed to get tired or become dated from a physical standpoint. The same is true for food and beverage. I mean, after all, we are a restaurant. That is why people are coming to us, is they want to eat, right? And with the melting pot, not only do they want a great food experience and beverage experience, but they want to be able to do it in the company of really good friends or loved ones. And that's something that's really special about the melting pot, is it is more than just about food, beverage, service. It's about people taking time out, which everybody needs, especially now, to connect with people that they care about. You wouldn't want to go to the melting pot with somebody you didn't like. You want to take people that you want to spend some time with, have some fun with.
I like that. Can I take that quote? No.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's
like having a campfire. It's like being around a campfire with a bunch of people you don't like, right?
Exactly. We've all had
marshmallows.
We've all had to take people to dinner that we didn't really, care for, but we had to do that, right?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
You wouldn't choose to take them to your local melting pot.
Nah, that says a lot, though. What you just said.
Yeah, save that for people you care about.
Yeah, no, that's nice. But so tell me, I mean, that experience. I mean, so you want the people to leave the restaurant with that feeling, and so tell me a little bit about the marketing around about that. Like, do you have like some programs where loyal customers can get more involved? And you know what I mean? It's like, whether it's a rewards program or whatever, it kind of pushes you to do a little bit more. You're like, you love going there anyway. But tell me a little bit about what you guys do from that point of view.
Sure. Well, the concept itself does the heavy lifting for us. And I'm not saying that marketing is easy. I mean, your company's in the marketing business, so you know that it's ever evolving and it's challenging. You got to put a lot of effort into it. But when you have a really good concept, you've got something to work with. And that is the case with the melting pot. And we have different kinds of guests. We have people who crave the food or the experience, and they come relatively often, more frequently than the average visitor at a melting pot. And then, of course, there are people who are choosing to celebrate something that's going on in their life, whether that's, the obvious thing like an anniversary or a birthday, or, we just have come out of graduation season. Lots of people celebrating graduations at the Melting Pot, multiple generations, 3 generations at the table together. Or it's connections, people who are craving connections. Sunday at a Melting Pot is, when you walk in there, you'll see lots of families, larger gatherings. So these are the reasons why people choose us. And there's also another thing that takes place at the Melting Pot is tradition. Families have traditions of celebrating at the Melting Pot at a certain time of year. Maybe it's holiday time or vacation time. And this is something that, they market annually on their calendar. And it's really cool to be a part of a brand where that's the case. As I said, the brand does the heavy lifting. Now, our marketing team, and Anna Malmquist, our chief marketing officer, and her team do an amazing job of leveraging those strengths through our marketing and communications. And we have over 2.2 million people in our affinity database, or we call it the Fondue Club, and with an amazing open rate, on emails, much higher than industry average. So this is an engaged base of advocates, regular users of the brand.
Yeah. No, I asked that because I had to believe it. That's the kind of food we're talking about. It's just like that's my thing. I like that. I like this, but this is unique, right? It's not like, and so if you get a recipe from you guys, like something comes over the email or whatever, it's probably something that people are like, yeah, I want to check that out.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. But that's a great audience to have.
We just opened up a new restaurant last week, and I was watching the news this morning, and a local station was covering them, and they were in the restaurant kind of talking to employees and guests. And the way one person put it is, they love the restaurant because you get to play with your food, and that's kind of a clever way of really saying that it's not steak and potatoes. This is part entertainment, part theater, just wrapped with connections with the people that you've chosen to share that experience with. We like to say that it's as much about what's going on around that fondue pot as it is what's in the fondue pot.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, so we've talked a lot about how cool the restaurant is and the experience can be and how it can serve the community. So tell me a little bit about the business side for those that may be thinking, geez, a restaurant type of business could be me. And what are some of the things they should be thinking about? Like if they're new to it, or even if they've been in the restaurant industry, but haven't run a business yet. If they're coming from outside the brand, which I know you have a lot of people inside the brand that you look at sometimes, but tell me, what should they be thinking? What are some ideas you could share?
Well, our growth does come both from internal growth, franchisees who are opening additional locations, but also external growth. And, it's about an even mix when you look at through the history of the brand. And those people who come from outside the brand don't come far because they are typically loyal users of the brand as a guest. So they get the concept. If you are in the restaurant business, it's not difficult to see what the strengths and the benefits are of a melting pot concept. First of all, we've already talked about it. It's unique. So I'm not going to have to do battle with a restaurant down the street that looks just like I do, right? So when somebody wants fondue, there is only one brand that comes to their mind in most every market across the country. So that's a huge benefit. And an experienced restaurant operator appreciates that. They also appreciate the simplicity of the operation because we are not a traditional fully cooking kitchen type of restaurant, right? We prepare a lot of food and the presentation is like artwork, but the cook is at the table. The guest is the cook, which is, of course, has operational benefits to it. We have a high check average. We're not fast food or even, quick casual. It's a notch or two above that, but not pretentious, not white tablecloth, right? Not fine. It's fun rather than that. And so an experienced restaurant operator appreciates the ability to reach financial goals with a high ticket average, right? And our average unit volumes are very high. What does somebody from the outside who maybe doesn't have restaurant experience need to know about considering the melting pot as a business opportunity? Well, you better like people, because this is a business of people. Our teams, we first have to have satisfied, fulfilled team members in order to do what we need to do to provide a perfect night out for our guests, So if you are an introvert and being around people is an energy sucker for you, then this is probably not the right opportunity. But if you get a kick out of putting on a show every night and watching people leave with smiles on their face, then this is the business for you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I don't like people. That's not the first thing out of someone's mouth if they're calling you guys, right? Yeah. So, yes, tell me a little bit. I mean, as we wrap the show up, one of the things I'd like to kind of ask is, someone who you've been there a long time. You've grown up there. So as you've done that, you've learned a lot, and you've been in an industry that's very generous in terms of learning, giving back and forth, and I would suppose for you that you've experienced that as well with franchising. So has there been like any kind of mentor or any source of inspiration that you use that's helped you kind of take this journey? I mean, you've grown a lot, right? And you've learned a lot as a leader. So tell me, is there something that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, well, we talked a little bit earlier about the culture, and it is the strong foundation of our business. For me personally, faith is a big part of my life, as is family. I'm one of 6 kids in my generation, and I have children and now grandchildren of our own. I've been married to my wife, who's been an amazing supporter of not just me, but the melting pot for now 38 years. And she also is a part of our charitable partnership with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and we've raised nearly $20 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and our team members every year. This past December raised over $1 million. So family and belonging is one of our principles, and doing more than just succeeding in business, that is important. We are a business, that's a priority. But we feel compelled to do more than that in the communities that support us greatly. And one of the ways that we do that is by working with local charities. Our franchisees are plugged into their communities, and more broadly, nationally, we support St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So, I mean, I think those are the things that get me out of bed, anxious to go to work. But one more is I get a kick. We all get a kick here out of helping people achieve the dream of business ownership, right? Some people come to us and they own other businesses, and they've already done that, right? But many of our franchisees, and today our most successful franchisees, maybe never even dreamed of owning their own business. And it's very gratifying, to work with a franchise candidate like that and to watch them come into their own and really kind of master their own destiny through business ownership. So that gives us a great deal of pride and pleasure.
Yeah. Now, I mean, having a business that reaches as far and wide as a franchise brand, especially one that's been around and one that's as large as yours, is got to be an honor, right? It's got to be a great opportunity because, like you said, you mentioned charities, you mentioned helping people get into business, you mentioned serving the community. Just so many great things. It's all centered around having a purpose, right? Get you out of bed.
Our leadership model is servant leadership. We serve first, and as I mentioned earlier, the first audience that we need to serve is our team members, are these young people that they're going to move on to studies or other careers in all likelihood, but we want to give them tools that they can use no matter where they go, and we want them to recall where they learned that, right? Because we always want them, if we can't have them as a team member, we want them to return as a guest and to bring their families for the generations to come. And that we see that a lot. We get to re-meet a lot of our old team members as guests in the restaurant.
Yeah. And that's, like you said, it's a people business, right? So you certainly want to leave people better off, no matter how you know them, right? Leave them better off. That's how we feel in marketing with the idea of marketing, right? So we talked about, you said earlier, you have an open rate that's real high, right? Well, you're touching someone, right? Leave them better off, something of value, right? Every time you get a chance. But I think that's very profound when you're working with people like you guys do. My kids are both at an age where they're getting their first jobs and they're learning, right? And I want them to learn from good people. So like, to me, it's like, if they get a chance to work for good companies or a franchise, then, at least they're learning some things done right, done the right way. If you happen to do this again. Anyways, well, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you
again, Bob. And so is there an easy way for folks to reach out to the brand if they are interested in potentially getting involved?
Absolutely. We have a brand new website that you can go to at meltingpotfranchise.com. You can just type into any search engine, and our marketing team's doing a good job of making sure that we show up. And the website gives you a lot of information to learn more about the business opportunity and why it may or perhaps may not be the right fit for you. This is what it is, not a salesy process. When you inquire about a franchise business opportunity with us, it's a journey that we go on together to make an informed decision whether this is the right fit for you and the right fit for us. We take that very seriously. Most people who inquire don't end up becoming a Melting Pot franchisee, and it's not because there's anything wrong with them. Maybe we just weren't the right opportunity for them. So we go on this process of discovery together. Colin Benyo is in charge of franchise growth strategies, and he's kind of your tour guide through that. And I can tell you one thing, we're meeting with a group later today, in fact, who are coming in and looking at 2 markets in Connecticut. And at the end of that day, whether we decide to move forward in this business opportunity or not, I can guarantee you that those folks will have enjoyed the experience, and they'll have been met with team members who are pleasurable and very transparent and honest and open about what it's like to own a melting pot.
Yeah. Well, I always say it, like, the whole process of looking at franchise brands is a good experience, no matter what. And you learn a tremendous amount. It should be, right? We're all in it together as an industry, but every time you get an opportunity, again, it's a strategic partnership. You want it to be a great fit. And it is, it's a little bit of a give and take. You got to know if it's a fit or not, but you should walk away saying, at least I'm clear, right? I'm clear on what I'm good at and what I should be doing versus not. So I think that's important as a business owner. You really have to know what you're getting into and be clear on the opportunity. So I appreciate you. Thanks again for being on the show, Bob Johnston. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate your interest in the melting pot.